Last witness is John Rees, who's co-founder of the Stop the War Coalition, been vice president of the Cairo Anti-War Conference since its foundation in 2002. John Rees, it does seem that this dictator is at best unbalanced and has all or most of the heavy weaponry at his disposal. Perhaps the rebels don't stand much of a chance. Shouldn't we be trying to even things up somehow?
Well, I don't think there's any argument about the nature of the Gaddafi regime and possibly no argument about the mental state of the colonel himself. So I don't think we need to detain ourselves on that. I do, however, think that this revolution, which is part of the pattern of revolutions that start in Tunisia and in Egypt, has taken the form of a civil war in which you have to say, actually, quite the contrary. The rebels have done a terrific job. They've got a very large proportion of the country under their control. They are holding towns which have been repeatedly trailed as being lost to them. They seem to be sustaining themselves with remarkable skill militarily. So I don't think that the case, even in that narrow frame, is made. However, I do think the one thing that the West could do, which would bolster the Gaddafi regime, which would lend weight to his argument that the revolution is a Western plot, would be to send Western armaments or to impose a no-fly zone, which would give credibility to the one argument which is gluing some Libyans to his cause.
And McKelvey?
The terrific cause that you've just praised there of the rebels, well, actually, the facts at the moment are that rebels are under increasing pressure, that Gaddafi has vowed to fight to the last man and woman, has called them traitors, and appears to be prepared to use air power against them. Now, in that case, everything that you have just supported would be for nothing. So why would you not wish to offer succour and support?
Because it would have quite the contrary effect. Libyan pilots at the moment are flying their aircraft to Malta and to Cyprus and surrendering. One pilot ejected and crashed his craft in the desert. They've actually brought down 2 craft. If I was a Libyan pilot, the one thing that might get me to think I should stick and be loyal to Colonel Gaddafi is the sight of the USAF coming over the horizon.
But you're not.
Well, neither are you.
I didn't say I was. Self-determination seems to be the... You said if I were. Self-determination seems to be a big idea for you.
If you say if I were, that isn't the same as saying that you are.
Can we move on?
Self-determination appears to be very important to you in these arguments. Why is that the overriding principle that rules out any other form of engagement?
Because those who do the liberating quite usually get to do the ruling afterwards. If the Libyan people get to do the liberating, they at least a very good chance of doing the running of their country afterwards. If it's the USAF or the RAF or the 82nd Airborne or the 101st Airborne, they're very likely to have a disproportionate say, an unwarranted say in Libyan government afterwards. And they've had quite enough of that over recent decades.
So your case is based on dislike and distrust of Western democracies?
No, my case is based on the idea that the Libyan people should run their own government and not the military apparatus of the West.
But just going to your self-determination point a bit more, so in Kosovo, what about the self-determination rights of the Kosovo Albanians when they were under attack from Slobodan Milosevic? Same in Bosnia. Same has happened in a number of countries where we've intervened sometimes and sometimes we haven't. But the self-determination really is the argument of the dictator, isn't it?
Well, I think you've forgotten what actually got rid of Milosevic. What actually got rid of Milosevic was an uprising in Serbia itself involving very significant strike activity in the factories and the steelworks, and that was what, in the end of the day, got rid of Milosevic.
Mr. Rees, I was sitting on the ground and it was really not like that if you were sitting under the bombing.
Matthew Ten?
Can I just clarify your position? You think it was right to go back to Rwanda, for example, it was right not to have intervened in Rwanda because Rwanda was a sovereign country and any intervention would have made things worse. There would have been more than 900,000 deaths.
Well, I'm not talking about the Rwandan case.
No, but you're establishing the principle of sovereignty, so presumably it applies to Rwanda as the same way as it applies to Libya.
Well, the principle is certainly absolutely valid, and I can't imagine that you're arguing anything different. You aren't saying that there is no principle of national sovereignty or no principle of self-determination.
The principle of national sovereignty has to be weighed against other principles, and one of those principles is a humanitarian concern.
Well, in that case, let's get it down to cases, and the case that we're talking about is the Libyan case.
I'm interested in principle.
I'm not arguing that in certain...
You're not arguing against intervention in all cases.
arguing that in certain cases there might not be other principles involved. We could discuss the Spanish Civil War and the principles involved there, but let's talk about the kind of assistance that might be usefully given. Because I'm not even saying that there aren't things that could be done. We are still buying oil. We are still funding the Gaddafi regime. Let's stop doing that. Let's sell the Gaddafi resources, seize the assets, give it to the government in Benghazi. They are in control of a port. Let them buy the weaponry which could defend themselves.
Would you be in favour of sanctions? Would you be in favour of sanctions?
No, I wouldn't be in favour of sanctions. I'm in favour of taking action which, in its form, will bolster the ability of the revolution to self-determine its outcome.
Can I look at this from another perspective then, which is, let's imagine that Colonel Gaddafi, this is quite possible, of course, was to say, when I win this war, one of the things I'm certainly going to do is to be absolutely a figurehead for a resurgence of international terrorism, and I will go out of my way to Pan Am will just be the beginning. I will blow up planes wherever I can. I will kill civilians wherever I can. Any of those nations which opposed me. Would that be grounds for intervention? Would we, in terms of national interest, in terms of defending our own citizens, would that give us grounds for intervention?
Well, let's do our very best to make sure that eventuality is ruled out by the success of this revolution.
Let's say Gaddafi is winning in a week. It's definitely winning, and let's say that he is saying, if I win, I am going to go back to sponsoring terrorism, which he's done in the past. Would that provide any moral basis for our government worrying about the sovereignty of its own people to say, we want to get rid of this guy, because this guy doesn't go, he'll be killing our citizens?
But I'm confused about why we should make a hypothetical condition about him winning when there are things that we can do today while the battle is still being joined to make sure that we never reach that point. What I'm interested in is making sure that the revolution succeeds and doing everything that we possibly can to ensure that eventuality under the basis that the Libyans determine their own future. That doesn't include a no-fly zone, but it does include taking other forms of action which actually support their ability to control their own destiny.
But more generally speaking, then, you say hypotheticals. I'm interested, more generally speaking, in whether or not you think it is legitimate for countries to intervene in other countries because those countries present a genuine threat to the people of the country that's making the attack. Is that ever a sufficient ground for intervention in your view?
The point is that this argument has been worn threadbare by being used so frequently when the argument couldn't possibly apply, the 45 minutes document, the intervention in Afghanistan, the intervention in Iraq. So it's busted as a serious argument.
John Rees, thank you very much indeed.